بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام الأتمان الأكملان على خير خلق الله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. My dear brothers and sisters in al-Islam, disciples and disciples, thank you very much for gathering and for waiting patiently for the commencement of the workshop. Hilyatu Talib al-Ilm, the finery of the student of knowledge, the jewelry of the student of knowledge, the gold and the silver, the diamonds, the rubies and the emerald of the Talib al-Ilm, hilya, the thing which makes you glow and shine. Your fine clothes, your cloaks that you put on you, which make you look good and handsome, which beautify you and adorn you. Hilya, huli, something that if you put on, it's supposed to shine. And it's supposed to make you feel good. It's supposed to make you look good. And it's supposed to make you much more attractive to others. So that is speaking in the physical sense or the literal sense, like nice clothes or like jewelry. Nice clothes and jewelry, fineries. And speaking in the metaphysical sense or the figurative sense, the akhlaq, the adab, the ahwal, the hadi, which when you practice, perform, learn, obtain, maintain, and uphold, it makes you as a person glow and shine. Glow and shine because of your humbleness and because of your truthfulness and because how kind you are, how soft-mannered you are, how generous you are, how you never tell no one, no, I can't, how wise you are, how brave and courageous you are when it comes to the truth, how pious and far you are from doubtful, dubious things. It causes the learner of ilm, the seeker of ilm, to glow and to shine, to be luminous. And it lies no doubt he's going to stick out like a sore thumb. And the smell and the aroma of ilm and sunnah and akhlaq, there lies no doubt. Once it is experienced, it's never ever forgotten. And no one in his right mind would turn and walk away from it. Even if they don't agree with you fully, but they will respect you and they'll see the good in you. And that's because light is light. Light is blinding. We look at the modern culture or the pop culture. When someone talks about gold or silver or platinum or diamonds, they say bling. It blings, it's blinding, it's shining because it's hilya, it's beautiful. And that's why people like fine jewelry. And that's why a woman, she wants a ring for her marriage, for the mahar or for the dowry. And that's why people like gold. It's natural. So gold, silver, fine clothes, these things, it makes you feel good. It makes you look good. And it makes others attracted to you. And this is the concept of the adab of the talib al-ilm. And with this being said, this goes to show us that any call or way or sheikh or scholar or university or masjid in which its followers and its adherents and the people who attribute themselves thereto have bad akhlaq, and people are turned away and turned off, and it causes separation, and it causes people to hate each other and to look down upon each other. And when you see the person from this orientation or this masjid or this group, you don't want to have anything to do with them. That proves that something is seriously wrong, and there's no way that can be in the manhaj al-haq. And that's because the manhaj al-haq is blinding, and it's beautiful and it's attractive. It's beautiful and it's attractive. So with that being said, that's with regards to the name and the title of the book of Shaykh Bakr rahimahullah ta'ala. So we have three options, inshallah. I'm going to give you guys three options. Listen carefully, please. Three options. Option number one is to take the actual book, Hilyatu Talib al-Ilm. Option number two is to take the summarized version of the book, Mukhtasaru Hilyat Talib al-Ilm. And option number three is to take a totally different book. A totally different book that wasn't announced, that wasn't propagated. Many of you may not have, but you can download it and we can share it with you. And there are benefits in all three options, and there are cons of all three options. As far as the benefit of the first option, then of course that's the actual book that we said we were going to teach and study. And that's the book that you're looking forward to. And that's the book that you've printed out in Arabic or in English, or you have the PDF of. So it only makes sense to stick with that. And the book, without any doubt, without any question, is a blessed book. A blessed book. And it's a book that many people have benefited from. And it is a book that was written by a very erudite scholar. Shaykh Bakr rahimahullah ta'ala was a great scholar. And also from the virtues of Shaykh Bakr rahimahullah ta'ala, and you can clearly see in his writing style in the book, is that he wrote the book with foreknowledge. He wrote the book with bu'd al-nazar, as if he guessed, or Allah had showed him, or his intuition, or his ability as a scholar, al-muhim, ayyan kan, as if he predicted some things to happen in the future. And that there will be people, yantasibuna ila al-ilm, they attribute themselves to knowledge and the ulama, and the way of Ahl al-Sunnah, Ahl al-Hadith, and Salaf al-Salih, وَهُمْ أَبْعَدُ النَّاسِ عَنْ هَذِهِ الْأَخْلَاقِ وَالْآدَابِ. And they're from the furthest of people of the basic staple behavior. A student of knowledge who is a liar. How can you study and you're a liar? A student of knowledge who is a backbiter and a slanderer. A student of knowledge who is a gossiper. A student of knowledge who is greedy for the dunya. A student of knowledge who is afraid and cowardly to speak the truth. A student of knowledge who practices innovations and he thinks that he's getting closer to Allah by making bid'ah. A student of knowledge that doesn't have respect for his teacher and humbleness for his teacher. A student of knowledge who scorns his classmate and his peer. A student of knowledge whose heart is burning with hasad and evil, jealousy, because you're better than me, or younger than me, or faster than me, and your grades are better than me. A talibul ilm who takes knowledge as a means of obtaining gold and silver, a means of obtaining money and amassing money, not making a basic living, not someone compensating you for your time and your travels and your agreements, no, but using the deen just for the dunya. And a student of knowledge who takes the dawah of the sunnah, the call to the sunnah, which the Muslims fi amasin hajati ilayha, the Muslims around the world are in the utter need of the da'wah towards the sunnah, and ruin it and spoil it, especially in a place in which the Muslims may be the minority, or those Muslims who are practicing, who aren't secular Muslims, nominal Muslims, Friday Muslims. They're trying to practice Islam 7 days a week. They're trying to learn, they're trying to be upon the sunnah. They are aqallul qalili, the fewest of the few. The earth and the land in which the finch or the sparrow is the eagle. إِنَّ الْبُغَاثَ بِأَرْضِنَا لِيَسْتَنْسِرُوا. As the Arabs say, the sparrow in our land is the eagle. There's no comparison between a finch or a sparrow and an eagle. They're two different birds, size, speed, and their mentality, but there are no eagles in this land. So that little Tweety bird is the best thing that we have in this land, in which the people of the sunnah are tiny and small and weak. And then I come and I practice and I say ilm and the ulama and al sunnah, and I rip and I shred and I tear up into more fragments, as if Shaykh Bakr rahimahullah ta'ala, as if he saw this ahead of time. And anyone who reads about Shaykh Bakr rahimahullah and the conversations that he had with other scholars and other individuals, he wants from this, in this book and outside of this book. And that's why he wrote the book. And you can clearly see that in the writing style of the book. And if you look at 2019, you'll find many manifestations of this. Unfortunately, in some of us, وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ, you may find this in yourself, and you may find this in others, in which people are attributing themselves to ilm, and they're the furthest, أَبْعَدُ النَّاسِ, from these basic simple things. And I mentioned many of those examples. And I don't think anyone who's impartial would disagree with me. In Malaysia and outside of what? Malaysia. Wherever you go, from New York City to Philadelphia to Singapore, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So that's one benefit of option number one. The con of option number one is that the book is relatively large. It's relatively large. And many parts of the book are relatively repetitive. I said relatively repetitive. And many of its chapters are overlapping. Many of its chapters are overlapping. Another con of the book is the style, the language of the book. Ala mustawa ali shway. It's a bit high. And Shaykh Bakr rahimahullah, his writing style was what? Was known to be very high. And he used many words and different styles, which many people who are at the beginning of learning Arabic, or even basic proficient Arabic, they found difficult. That was well known about Shaykh Bakr rahimahullah ta'ala. So those are some of the cons of the book. Another con of the book is R-type. Option number 2, the summarized version. The benefit is obviously there. You're getting the book, but you're getting a summary. And a student of knowledge, very much so, is in need of ikhtisar. And when you ask what book should I study first, what's the first book I should study, there are 2 main guidelines that our teachers in Medina gave to us. And they would say, ashaluhu wa akhsaruhu. The easiest and the smallest. The easiest sharh and the smallest size. Not the most famous, this book of Shaykh Fulan, Imam Fulan. The simplest and the smallest in size. That's the first book that you should study of any sharh, of any matan. Everyone understand this? Or a book which isn't a matan but it's actual kitab, adab, whatever the case may be. Al-Mulakhas. You want something to be small, you want it to be what? Fi ghayat al-wuduhi wa suhula. Easy to pick up. So the summarized version of the book is clear, it's a clear benefit behind that. That's benefit number 1. And you're not really missing too much. The con of option number 2 is that, alhamdulillah, we explained the summarized version of the book in the United Kingdom, in Birmingham. We did it from cover to cover. And obviously, we would like to cover new ground, conquer new frontiers, go over new and different things, and the videos are there up on the channel. You can listen to it and follow along. You can get the PDF of the Mukhtasar and you won't lose anything, and it can save more time. Everyone understand this? The faida of, and there's nothing wrong with making more than one sharh of one book. The ulama, they've done this. There's nothing wrong with that. But oftentimes we have to what? Maximize and economize our time. The option number 3 is what I humbly feel one of the most underrated books of the genre, of the Kutub Adab Talab al-Ilm. One of the most underrated books and least commonly mentioned and least commonly known, and I feel is one of the best books, especially of that classic era. And that is a book which is called Adib al-Alim wal-Muta'allim. Adib al-Alim wal-Muta'allim. Wal-Mufti wal-Mustafti wa Fadlu Talib al-Ilm. It's a book which is called Adib or Adab al-Alim wal-Muta'allim. Wal-Mufti wal-Mustafti wa Fadlu Talib al-Ilm. And it is a book, it says adab or adab, either or adab, the etiquette and the manners of the learner and the teacher, the student and the master. Al-alim wal-muta'allim. He who is a beginner in the middle and he who is advanced. And the etiquette or the manners of the mufti, the one who says this is halal and this is haram and this is kada, and this is like this, and the one who's giving fatwa. And the etiquette of the mustafti. What are the rules of you asking a question? Is it permissible to ask someone like this question? Is it okay to say, Ya Shaykh, what's the dalil for such and such and such and such? Hal hadha min al-adab? What is the ruling and the etiquette of asking about a name in an individual? I say, there's a Shaykh whose name is Abdul Hakim, and he said, kada, 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 kada. Mada taqul ya Shaykh? Is that a good thing to mention his name in the question? وهكذا. What are the etiquettes of a mustafti? Can you make ijtihad if you're an ammi? Can you pick and choose between scholars and muftis if you're an ammi? Can you fatwa shop if you're an ammi? The point is, all of these things are clearly manifested in the dawah and the studies today. And a lot of the confusion comes from us not knowing these proper adab. Alright? So this is a book which is relatively small. The PDF is only 86 pages. And it's a book that I've done many lessons from. And the author is Al-Hafidh An-Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, An-Nawawi. But it's not an individual book. Bal huwa muntaza. It's a book which is extracted from one of the greatest works of Nawawi. And I'm sure many of you students of the Shafi'i madhab already know the book. And that is Al-Majmu' Sharh al-Muhadhab, the Shirazi. One of the most important Shafi'i books, and one of the best books of Nawawi rahimahullah that he didn't finish before he passed away. So before he even got into explaining that other book of fiqh and the comparative fiqh, the Shafi'i madhab, and outside of the Shafi'i madhab, he made a muqaddimah, an introduction, in which he spoke about fadl al-ilm, wa fadl al-talabi, wa fadl kada, and which he also spoke about taqleed and ijtihad, and the mufti and the mustafti, etc. So my humble opinion, and Allah knows best, I feel that option number 3 is the best option. And I feel that the third book is the most appropriate book. It's easier, simpler, and it is dying and deserving of attention. That's my humble opinion, but it's not my choice to make. If we agreed on Hilya Talib al-Ilm, then that's what it will be. But if you say it's okay, we trust you, let's go with the second option or the third option, then so be it. That's my humble opinion. Wallahu alam. So,
What do you think is best?
it's up to you guys.
Trust you.
Who downloaded the book yet? Man Hamad al-Kitab. What do you think so far, Hanif? Huh? Still looking for it. Let me know if you need me to help you out. You got it? Tayyip, what do you guys think? Show of hands. Khidr. What's most beneficial? What do you think, Ashiq? Option 3. Tayyip. Once more, guys, if you want to download it, this is the name of the book. It's the front cover. Or if you have Al-Muhadhab, then just open up volume 1. I'm sorry, I don't want to cause anyone an inconvenience with regards to if you brought your Hilya Talib al-Ilm, but you can go back to the recordings. The link, all right, tight. Give me a browser, please, if you don't mind. No English, not yet. But we're going to translate. Don't worry. Bismillah. I guarantee by Allah's permission, you leave the masjid, inshallah, and you've benefited. Bismillah. You got it? Khalas. All right. If you guys could share the link, brothers and sisters, please. Adab al-alim wal-muta'allim. And as a benefit, brothers and sisters, as a benefit for you all, each and every one of you as a student of knowledge should have, in my humble opinion, you should always have a tablet with you at all times. You should have a tablet with you. The phone is okay, it's good. Kindle is good, Nook is good. But nothing like a tablet which you can get PDFs, because the Kindle is limited. I have a Kindle myself, and I have a Nook. I have more than one Nook. I have more than one Kindle. I read on them all the time. But the Arabic selection and the book selection on the Kindle and Nook, in my humble opinion, is poor. It's very poor. And there are many benefits of the Kindle. The glare, it's light, it's simple, the battery, there are no games, there are no distractions, but it's nothing like the good old-fashioned PDF. So if you have the ability to have a tablet with you, in which you have the books, and you have the categories, that's always a benefit for you. That's always a benefit type. So everyone have the book? Everyone got the book, inshallah? The sisters have the book? Sisters have the link, inshallah? Tayyip. All the brothers have the book? Tayyip. All right. So we have the Muqaddimat al-Nashir, the introduction of the publisher, Abu Hudhayfa. When is our first break? Which is? 1.5 hours. An hour and a half. All right, perfect. Tayyip. Tayyip. All right, everyone turn to page 6, please. Everyone on page 6? Everyone on page 6? Hanif, you on page 6? All right. The first thing that we're going to do is, after page 6 is the beginning of the book, we're now going to turn to page 85. Page 85. And the purpose of turning to page 85 is that whenever you get a new book, there are 3 to 4 things that you should do as a serious student of knowledge. 3 to 4 things that you should do whenever you get a new book. Obviously, this is an electronic book, but when you get an actual book, 3 to 4 things. Number 1, Stamp the book. Put your personalized stamp in your book. Number 2, if you wish, you can write down the place and the time where you bought the book, if you have the ability. Number 3, read the introduction. Number 4, skim through the table of contents whenever you buy a new book. And that that's because if you have 1,000 books in your library and someone says, have you read all of these books? You could basically say, yeah, pretty much, because you know what's inside of the book. And even if it's not based off of telling someone something, but the sheer fact that you know where to find something. And that is why the ulama of Islam, they say, a big part of being knowledgeable and learned, a big part of having ilm, they say, ma'rifatul madhan. Ma'rifatul madhan. It's to know where to find knowledge, know where to find an issue. It's to, everyone with me? Everybody with me? It's to know where to find it. Like a lawyer. A lawyer is dealing with a case. Or you come into the lawyer's office, hayakum Allah, right? And the lawyer, he may not memorize everything, he may not know everything, but he says, you know what? And he goes to volume 6 of this book. And he pulls up the issue. He pulls up the law. Or he finds a famous case of 20 years ago in another state or another country. He knows how to find his sources and his references, what? Relatively what? Quick. And you can't do that if you've never read the introduction or the table of contents of the book. Everyone understand this? So we don't just want to have a lecture, guys. We don't just want to have a simple lecture, but we want to grow as tulab al-ilm. We want to enhance and increase as real students of knowledge, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And we want to learn how to seek knowledge professionally. And there's a huge difference between sitting in a lecture, sitting in a school, and seeking ilm professionally. Huge difference, systematically. Tayyib. So can I have a volunteer to read for us, inshallah, on page 85? Who's our volunteer? Who will be our brave volunteer? Any volunteers? Tayyib. La bas. I'll raise my hand. I'll volunteer. Khidr can't volunteer, I'll volunteer. Tayyib. It says here, al-Fahris, al-Mawdu', al-Safha. Chapter number 1 is on page 6. It says, فصل في الإخلاص والصدق وإحضار النية في جميع الأعمال البارزة والخفية. The first chapter is pertaining to al-Ikhlas. And there is no one translation for the word al-Ikhlas. Sincerity, purity, it is no one translation for it. Al-Ikhlas. Comma, was-sidqu, truthfulness. Comma, wa ihdar an-niyya, and making your intention present. Bringing your intention, bringing your niyyah. Fi jami' al-a'mal al-bariza wal-khafiyya, concerning all acts that you perform, all deeds that you make. Al-bariza, those that are done in front of the people, wal-khafiyya, and those which are done behind closed doors. So chapter number 1 has 3 main tiers. Number 1 is al-Ikhlas. As-Sidq and al-Ikhlas are connected, but they're not always the same thing. They're not always synonymous. Number 3, the third tier is wa ihdar an-niyya. Isn't the first 2, for sure. Al-Ikhlas means I'm going to seek knowledge, and I'm seeking knowledge for Allah. I'm not seeking knowledge to please you, or to show off, or to sound good, or to look good. Was-sidqu, truthfulness, as I said, is attached to Ikhlas, but it's a bit different. And that is seeking knowledge with the proper intention, with the intention of implementing it and putting it into practice. Number 3, wa ihdaru niyya. He says, in bringing your niyyah, making your niyyah present. That's not the same as al-Ikhlas. I may seek knowledge or read or study, and I'm not doing it for the people, nor am I doing it for Allah. I'm just doing it just to do it, because I like reading. Or I have a test, I have an exam. Everyone understand this? And you're not actually bringing the spiritual presence in which I'm doing this for Allah. إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي. You're bringing all of that stuff into mind when you have an exam to study for. So that's the very first chapter. And it says, فِي جَمِيعِ الْأَعْمَالِ, all acts, not some acts. I can be sincere in the masjid and do it for the dunya or money or a husband or wife outside of the masjid or at the university, or to please this person, or to make my mother happy, or to make my father proud by being the imam, etc., or to represent my race, etc. La. All acts have to be done sincerely. And all acts, you must be truthful. And all acts, there must be ihdar an-niyyah. Alright? All acts. And acts which have no discrimination. I can sit in front of one person and teach a class, or I can sit in front of 1,000 people. It matters not. You give a khutbah, and the masjid is swollen, packed, or there's only a few people sitting down. You answer someone's question, you help someone out. Someone who's wealthy and noble, or someone who is deformed. Someone who's looked down upon and scorned. You help someone out, whether it is an attractive sister, or whether it is a sister that you don't feel is that attractive. You have ikhlas, and you make no discrimination. With regards to ilm and ta'lim, it's for Allah. It doesn't matter. Everyone understand this? And many people, they fall into the violation of this. They violate this. Like calling to Islam. If they see someone who's attractive, they'll say, oh, call them to Islam. Someone who's not so attractive, not so wealthy, not so affluent, they'll, just walk by them. And that's what Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned, Abasa wa tawalla, an ja'ahu al-a'ma. Even though the Prophet ﷺ didn't discriminate, and he didn't look down upon the blind man, but he was trying to prioritize and trying to call the chieftain, the influential person whom would bring many other people into Islam. But that wasn't the case. That man did not want ilm, he didn't want dawah, he didn't want Islam, and the blind man did. So that's a tremendous lesson from Surah Abasa, is to treat people indiscriminately, especially when it comes to ilm. And this, I cannot explain in words how important it is for the student of knowledge. This is the foundation of it. It's the foundation of this whole thing of ours. Number 2, في فضيلة الاشتغال بالعلم وتصنيفه وتعلمه وتعليمه والحث عليه والإرشاد إلى طرقه. The second chapter is on page 11. He says, فضيلة الاشتغال بالعلم is the excellence of staying busy with knowledge. The excellence of staying busy with knowledge. He doesn't say the excellence of seeking knowledge, the excellence of sitting in a class, the excellence of going to a university and then graduating and taking on a profession and children and business. No. He said, al-ishtighal, you being always in the what? The mix of knowledge. You're always mixed with knowledge, and knowledge is always what? Mixed with you. Are we understanding this? You're always busy with it. وَتَصْنِيفِهِ, he says, in writing, you write an article for a website, you write a book, you write a metin, you translate something, you put together a program, a curriculum. And don't say, who am I to write something? There are too many books out there. There are people that are better than me. It doesn't need to be retranslated. No, don't say that. That should never be your attitude. You never know who's going to benefit from your book. And Allah may give you something that He didn't give. What? The first. وَتَعَلُّمِهِ, and always learning. As Anas radiallahu anhu narrated, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, مَنْ هُمَانِ لَا يَشْبَعَانِ مَنْهُومٌ فِي طَلَبِ الْعِلْمِ لَا يَشْبَعُ وَمَنْهُومٌ فِي طَلَبِ الدُّنْيَا لَا يَشْبَعُ. Two people who never reach their satisfaction. Two types of greed which cannot be fulfilled. The first is seeking the ilm of the deen. You'll never ever get enough. And the second is seeking the dunya. You'll never ever get enough. There'll never be enough dunya. You always want more, faster, fresher, fancier, better, newer. You always want it. You'll never ever get enough if you are never content and pleased. But knowledge isn't like that. You should always want more. You should always be greedier and greedier and greedier. You want to soak all of it up. Because knowledge is nur, it's barakah, it's khair. Wa ta'limihi, and the virtue of teaching knowledge. Teach knowledge. And do not allow shaitan to come and make excuses. I'm too young to teach. I'm not strong enough to teach. There are people who are better than me to teach. Or if I teach, then they'll talk about me and speak about me or boycott me. Or my parents will become upset. Or I can't make a living if I teach. And etc. Excuses. Teach knowledge. Give knowledge. Spread the knowledge that was given to you. وَالْحَثِّ عَلَيْهِ, and encouraging others to do the same. وَتَوَاسَوْا, not only do they have iman and amal salih, but they also tell the people to do what? The same. And don't be stingy. Encourage the people to do what Allah has blessed you to do. وَالْإِرْشَادِ إِلَى تُرُقِهِ, and pointing and steering the people in the right direction. Pointing and steering the people in the correct direction. How do I go to the Islamic University of Madinah? How do I go to this university in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in this place, in this country? How do I become a mufti? How do I learn hadith? How do I learn Arabic? How do I memorize the Quran? Help the people. Put them on the path. Show them the proper way and the proper etiquette. Page 15 is the next chapter. It says, في ترجيح الاشتغال بالعلم على الصلاة والصيام من العبادات القاصرة على فاعلها. He says that seeking knowledge is superior to all other acts of worship. Seeking knowledge is superior to all other acts of worship, such as prayer, such as fasting, etc. Acts of worship which only benefit the doers of those acts. When you pray, it's a beautiful thing. And obviously we're talking about the tatawwa, the voluntary prayers. I have an hour of free time. I can read Sahih Bukhari or I can pray. I only have a limited amount of energy. I can learn and study and go hard for some hours, or I can fast, in which I'll be tired, I'll be thirsty, I'll have a migraine, and I have a little bit of energy. Fasting is a beautiful thing. As the Prophet ﷺ told the companion, the hadith of Abi Umama, he says, give me some advice, tell me something. He says, عَلَيْكَ بِالصَّوْمِ فَإِنَّهُ لَا مِثْلَ لَهُ. Fast, because there's nothing like fasting. It's an incomparable act of ibadah to fast. مَنْ صَامَ يَوْمًا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ بَاعَدَ اللَّهُ وَجْهُهُ عَنِ النَّارِ 70 خَرِيفًا. Whoever fasts one voluntary day in the cause of Allah, Allah will take him 70 years away from the fire of hell. Fasting is tremendous, but fasting only benefits you. It's only a benefit for yourself. Learning Sahih al-Bukhari, learning Usul al-Fiqh, studying the Fiqh of Shafi'i or this or that, the tafsir, it benefits what? A whole community of people. It benefits an entire what? Community of people. Right now you're sitting in front of me with your pens and your pads. If I chose to make voluntary worship instead of studying and learning, this class and this majlis wouldn't be. Correct or incorrect? And the fasting and the prayer and the hajj and the sadaqah and the zakah, all good deeds, but they would only be benefit for what? For myself. You understand this? He says, so when you have limited time, or when there's a struggle with time or energy or resources, whatever it may be, knowledge is what? Is better than anything else. And that's something to keep in mind. That's something to keep on your mind. Chapter after that is on page 18. فيما أنشدوه في فضل طلب العلم. The different lines of poetry and the different poems about the virtue of ilm. Not the ahadith, not the ayat, not the kalam of the ulama, the sahaba and the salaf al-salih, but the poems, the poets, the smooth, sweet words about the virtue of ilm. And whenever you want to look at the importance of a thing and the phenomena that is going around and being widespread, look at poetry. That's a universal rule from the east to the west. You wish to learn the people's culture, their tradition, their history, read their poems. Read their poems. Whether it's ancient poetry, whether it's modern poetry, read poetry. And you'll see how people live and think. And if knowledge is important and special, then of course there had to be people who did what? They wrote about it. They wrote what? Rhymes about the virtue of ilm. Page 19. فصل في الذم من أراد بفعله غير الله تعالى. The dispraise of those who seek knowledge and teach knowledge and write about knowledge and they are not seeking Allah. Those who deal with ilm for other than the face of Allah. Those who deal with knowledge, teaching, learning, writing, explaining, spreading, al-hath alayh wal-irshad ila turqihi, and it's for other than Allah. Whether it is to show off, whether it is because of an insecurity or post-traumatic stress, whether it is because of money and wealth, whether a person wishes to find a wife or a husband, whatever it is, followers, or to vent my jealousy and my anger and to prove my dominance over you, I'm better than you, so I'm going to prove it. Whatever it is, if it's for other than Allah, then that's something which is madhmoom. It is condemned and is looked down upon severely. It's not okay. So that chapter says the dispraise of those who seek knowledge for other than Allah. The dispraise of those who teach knowledge for other than Allah. The dispraise of those who spread knowledge for other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next chapter is on page 21. في النهي الأكيد والوعيد الشديد لمن يؤذي أو ينتقص الفقهاء والمتفقهين والحث على إكرامهم وتعظيم حرماتهم. The next chapter says the strict prohibition. The strict prohibition and the severe threat and warning to those who disrespect and annoy the people of knowledge. Those who disrespect them, annoy them, look down upon them, and find their faults. Those who are fuqaha and those who are mutafaqihin, for scholars and students, to disrespect them, to scorn them, and to find fault in them. That is not okay, and it is a severe, severe prohibition to do that. Tayyib. All of these things here are considered to be introductions before you get to the actual mawdu' of the talab, etc. Chapter after fusul, and as we're sitting among tulab al-ilm, what is the difference? Or when you're reading a book, how do you break down the book? There is kitab, there is bab, there's fasl, there is mabhath. You guys familiar with these terms? When you're reading a book, ما الفرق بين الفصل والمبحث؟ ما الفرق بين الفصل والباب؟ أنتم معنا؟ أنتم معنا أم لا؟ هل في فرق ولا كل يعني شيء واحد؟ في فرق شو هو؟ طيب. He says باب أقسام العلم الشرعي. Page 23 says the types of religious knowledge. The types of religious knowledge. The categories of religious knowledge. Al-Ilm al-Shar'i. All religious knowledge isn't the same. And it isn't on the same level of importance and seriousness and obligation of seeking and learning and teaching and spreading. Aqsam, there are different types. You as a student of knowledge must know this. Is that there are levels. Al-Qism al-Awwal, page 23, the first category, first type, Fardul Ayn. Fardul Ayn. It's the knowledge that every single Muslim must know about. It's the type of knowledge that every single Muslim must obtain. And every single Muslim must have come across this knowledge at least once in his or her lifetime. Practicing it on a daily basis, of course, that's eternal, forever. But at least they came across it at least once. Fard Ayn. This is very important when it comes to da'wah and teaching. The thing that I'm going to busy the general 9 to 5 population with in Singapore is Fard Ayn. I'm going to encourage them to learn more knowledge, of course. And we're going to encourage them to get virtues and excellent things. But the thing that we're going to nulzimuhum bihi, we're going to force them to learn and push is only what? Fard ayn, that's it. Whether it's fiqh, aqidah, adab, tafsir, whatever the field is, that is the thing that the layman Muslims must know about. As far as the fard kifaya, different story. Of course, we say learn more, but we're going to really push it on the tulab al-ilm, the people who have talent. That's a huge difference between the two. And you knowing this difference can save you from a lot of problems with the government, with your family, with your friends. It can save you from a world of trouble, in which we don't even have to discuss these issues with these layman people. They don't need to know it. They don't have to know it. You understand this? And there's certain sit-ins, certain classes, certain khutbahs for certain people. I'm clear on this. Moving forward. Page 26. Fardul Kifaya. It is the knowledge which isn't ayn. It isn't obligatory for every single Muslim to learn, but the Muslims have to do it as a whole. So let's make an example of this, which I'm sure each and every one of you know. Hanif, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to get up. Hurry up. Get out. Go. Leave the masjid. Right now, leave the masjid. Yalla ya akhi. Ukhruj. Stand out the masjid. Stand outside. Now come in. Give salams. Come sit down. Notice, what didn't I do? I didn't give him what? Why not? Is he not a Muslim? Is he not my brother? Is he not a disciple? Do I have a problem? Why didn't I give him salams? Because at least there was at least what? At least one other person, let alone 10 and 20 people, who said what? Wa alaikum salam. Returning the salams, if there's a group of people, isn't what? Fard what? Ayn. But it's only fard what? Kifaya. إِذَا قَامَ بِهِ الْبَعْضُ سَقَطَ عَنِ الْبَاقِينَ. If one person does it, then the rest don't have to do it. إِذَا قَامَ بِهِ مَنْ يَكْفِي. If the number or the group of people who do it is sufficient, then I don't have to, or no one else what? Has to do it. But if it was only me and Hanif in the musalla, and he said, Assalamu alaikum, then that's a different what? Different what? Different story. Or if no one else said it, then that's a what? Different story. We all know fard ayn and fard al-kifaya. But it's very important to have practical examples of it, and to teach these practical examples to the layman Muslims. Islam, the aqidah of Islam is simple. The fiqh and the ibadah of Islam is simple. The adab, the akhlaq, the tafsir, these things are very simple for the layman Muslim. And the most important thing in my khutbah and my classes for the layman Muslims is for them to be good Muslims. Go to work. Take care of your family. Take care of your health. Look after your children. It's permissible to have fun. It's permissible to have good recreation. Look after your daughters. Look after your sons. Avoid the riba. Avoid this. Basic character on a day-to-day basis. Everyone understand this? Then it says, Al-Qism al-Thalith al-Nafl. The third type of knowledge is the knowledge which isn't obligatory at all. It's the knowledge which is totally optional. No one has to do it. No one has to do it. A nafl. No one has to seek this type of knowledge, period. So who can give me an example of the three types of knowledge so far? And before we go on, what do you guys think about the book so far? What do you guys think about the book? It feels easy or difficult? Easier, more beneficial, simple, the layout. We didn't even get into the book yet. We're still in the what? Table of contents. Everyone understand this? Tayyib. Who can give me an example of all three? Quickly, guys.
Praying 5 times a day, fardu ayn.
La, ilm, not amal, ilm. What's an example of ilm which is fard al-ayn? That's broad. Tawheed is kathir. Pillars of Iman. Ahsant. The basic understanding, Ibrahim, of the arkan al-iman is sit. The 6 pillars. The 6 pillars of al-Iman. The basics of them. Iman in Allah, which includes 4 things. Belief in His existence, belief in His lordship, belief in His beautiful names and perfect attributes and actions, and belief in His right to be worshipped alone without any partner. Basic, simple explanation. A few verses, simple, basic. Belief in the angels, that they exist, they're real, they're not figurative, kada kada. Minhum, from them is Jibreel and Mikael. They have deeds, they have actions. They're not partners with Allah. We don't worship them, etc. Wahakada, to the end of the 6. Point number 2, or type number 2, second type of knowledge, such as La Usul al-Fiqh. It's not fard ayn, but someone has to what? Know it. We have to have someone who's qadir al-ijtihad, qadir al-nazar. Third type or third category is what? Which is nafil. An example is learning the details and an extensive research of the malaika. I want to spend 3 months straight just reading on nothing but the malaika. Every single hadith, every ayah, what all of the ulama say just on the what? Angels. I find it interesting to learn about angels. I find it fascinating. I find it boosts my iman. And all I want to read about for 3 months straight is nothing but what? Malaika, nothing more. That's not obligatory upon anyone to know all the in-depth things. Everybody understand this or not? And this can be applied to fiqh, fard al-ayn, basics of wudu, basics of istinja, basics of tahara, of ghusl, basics. Fard al-kifaya, there has to be someone who knows the recommended way of ghusl, who knows the khilafat of the ulama regarding ghusl, regarding wudu. Do you have to say Bismillah? Can you start with your left hand? Does it have to be tartib, al-muwala, ila akhiri? Hal yujuz mas' ala al-khimar? Can you wipe over your khimar on wudu or not? Someone from among us has to what? Has to have that fiqh. And has to have the in-depth fiqh. And the nafil is for a person to have an extensive, in-depth understanding of all these different fiqh issues. Moving forward. Al-ulum al-kharija an al-ulum al-shar'iyyah. He speaks about knowledge which isn't religious. Secular knowledge. Secular knowledge. Knowledge which is not included or attached to the deen, to the Shari'ah. Knowledge of the dunya. And many people, they make a great misunderstanding with regards to this knowledge. We have extremists on both sides. Those who say knowledge of the Shari'ah really isn't important. Knowledge of the dunya is the only thing that's important. And then there are those who say knowledge of the dunya isn't important at all. Rather, it's haram to learn. You shouldn't learn it. You shouldn't go to school. You shouldn't get this degree. We don't need that. And it's just ilm of the deen and the Shari'ah. Both of them are extreme. Both of them are what? Extreme. I would understand this. There's nothing wrong with having knowledge of the dunya. If my car breaks down, I'm going to go to the mechanic and not to a faqih. If I'm sick, I have a bad fever, I'm going to go to where? The doctor, and not to a what? A faqih. Well, my phone is cracked, my screen is cracked, I'm going to go to someone who deals with electronics. I'm not going to go to a qari of the Quran. I'm going to go into a specialist in his or her what? Field. When I go to a restaurant, I don't want you to take me to the religious restaurant or the restaurant in which the people are the sunnah. No, I want authentic good food. I would understand this or not. Everybody clear on this or not? So the knowledge of the dunya is a necessity. And if it wasn't for the knowledge of the dunya, we would not be here. Or how long would it take to travel by boat from New York City to Malaysia? We traveled in a day through technology, through ilm of the dunya. People, they watch the YouTube videos, they benefit and they learn all across the world. And that's because of what? Knowledge of the dunya. Dunya knowledge is extremely important. Technology, science is extremely important. Another very important point is there are many aspects of the deen and the Shari'ah that you cannot understand without some type of knowledge of the dunya. There are many aspects of the dunya, or the deen, the Shari'ah, and which you can't properly understand without knowledge of the dunya. Such as what? What did the Prophet ﷺ say to the man who prayed badly? إِذَا قُمْتَ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ. He says what? فَاسْتَقْبِلِ الْقِبْلَةِ. Face the Qibla. Which way is the Qibla? How do you find the Qibla? Unless you have some basic understanding of what? North, west, south, east, southeast, وهكذا. You have to have basic knowledge. When a woman is pregnant and she's divorced and her husband doesn't know that she's pregnant, how long is the iddah to be? And how does she know and how does she determine that she's pregnant? Unless she has basic knowledge of what? Of the dunya. This is the sign that a woman is pregnant. This is the proof that a woman is what? Pregnant. So ahkam of marriage, talaq, iddah, all of these things cannot be applied and cannot be practiced, which Allah has commanded us to, unless we have basic knowledge of the what? Of the dunya. And there's so many other issues like this, and which you have to have fahm of the dunya to make the tatbiq of the what? Of the Shari'ah. Moving forward, next chapter. فصل في أن تعليم الطالبين وإفتاء المستفتين فرض كفاية. He says, teaching students and giving fatwa to those who ask questions is an obligation that is upon the community as a whole. As a whole, someone has to be doing it. And with this being said, بهذه المناسبة, it reminds me of what Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala said, in which he mentioned that everyone doesn't have to do fard kifaya. However, if you see someone doing fard kifaya that you cannot do, قال يجب عليه أن يفرح بمن قام به. You have to be happy that if someone else is doing it. I can't do what you do, but you're doing it, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. You have my applause, alhamdulillah. I'm proud. Keep up the good work, akhi. Keep doing it. I can't do it because of this situation, or I'm busy, or my mother is sick, but you can, and I'm proud and I'm happy. You must be happy and not be jealous and envious and try to ruin and stop it. He's doing something that I'm too lazy to do, that I'm too scared to do, that I'm too afraid to do. I can't try to find fault in him and bring him down and say negative things about him. And that's because someone has to do it. Allah gave him the tawfiq to do it. Not only is it obligatory just on him, but it's not obligatory for me to do what? To be happy that he's doing it. Everyone understand this? Moving forward. Babun adab al-muallim. The etiquette of the teacher. The etiquette of the teacher. The etiquette of the teacher. And we know it's going to be a chapter in which An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala mentions the etiquette and the manners which are shared by both. There are three types of manners, or three categories of etiquette. Number one is that which is specific to the learner. Number two is that which is specific to the teacher. And number three, that which is shared between both. Safwan, give me an example of the first category. Before you answer, Ashiq is next. And the number three, the first point, Ashiq, and number three is going to be Fatah. Right. I gave it, now we're going to do this quick. Fadda. Quick, akhi, quick. You got to be quick. The first point is that which is specific to the learner. Point number two, that which is specific to the teacher. Point three is that which is shared by both. Yalla, fadda. Quick. Learning from an authentic source. Tayyib, labas, ashiq. Quick, yakhi. It's a fourth quarter, seconds are running out. We need a three-pointer. It's the playoffs, akhi. Game 7. To teach the haqq. Tayyib, labas, mashi. Fatah, yalla, Fatah, let's go. Let's go, Fatah. Etiquette which both have to do. Both of them have shared. Everybody listen to the question once more. Listen carefully, guys. Everybody listen up. Listen up. Number one. Ozair. Now I know you're here. I saw you, but now I see you. So I'm going to call on you next. Ozair. We have 3 categories. Number 1 is behavior, which is exclusive to the learner. The teacher doesn't have to do this. Everyone clear on this or not? The teacher does not what? He doesn't have to behave like this at all because I'm the teacher. How is that fair? It doesn't have to be fair. Khidr, I'm the what? I'm the sheikh, you're the learner. You have to do it and not what? Not me. Category number 2. Behavior that does not involve the learner. It is something that I have to do. Don't worry about it. Sheikh, why do you have to do this? Why? It's not your concern. When you're a teacher, then you'll know why. It's my responsibility, and I have to behave like this. Category number 3 is the behavior that the sheikh and the tilmeed both have to what? Do. Both of them do it. Even if it's a different level, but they both what? Share it. Everyone understand the question better now? So let's start again. Uzair, category number 1. Let me help you out. An example, hypothetically, would be humility, humbleness. The Muslim has to be humble, of course. But we're talking about ilm right now, specifically. I'm the teacher. I don't have to humble myself to you. But it's your job as a learner to do what? To me, if you want to learn from me. If you don't want to humble yourself, that's fine. Don't learn from me. Clear on this or not? Category number 2, the sheikh. One of his responsibilities is what? Is to what? Be generous with his time. Be generous what? With his time. Or to be prepared for the class. وهكذا. An etiquette which is shared between the teacher and the student is what? Ikhlas. We both do it for Allah's face. Coming on time. It is an obligatory upon the teacher. It's not. I come when I want to come. Everyone understand this? And when I come, I'll sit down and drink tea for 5 and 10 minutes. MashaAllah, it's really good tea. Sip it and savor it. And you're sitting like, Sheikh, we've been waiting, it's hot. Okay, keep waiting. Everyone understand this? The student has to make sure that he or she is what? There, on time, waiting. Everybody clear on this or not? وهكذا. So he talks about the categories of what? Adab. And the first is adab of the what? Muallim. Of the what? The teacher. Faslun. So we see fasl is beneath what? Bab. ومن آدابه أدبه في درسه واشتغاله. ومن آدابه آداب تعليمه. He says the etiquette of the teacher in his lesson, in his profession, that which he does. And then there is the etiquette, the next point is his technique in teaching. How to teach. How to teach. What are his tactics of teaching? What are his strategies of teaching? What are his methods of teaching? Every student isn't the same. And this is one of the worst problems with formal education, especially on a lower elementary level, is that they teach every single child the same way. And they themselves know that each and every child isn't the same. Rather, many children are extremely unique and different than the next. They are not the same. Nor do they have the same goals in life. Nor do they have the same aspirations and abilities and opportunities in life. So why should every single child have to learn the same robotic, mechanical way? So you have to learn that students vary. This one is talented, this one isn't so talented. This one is very hardworking, and this one is a bit lazy. This one is fast, sharp as a thumbtack. And this one is a bit dull, a bit slow. You have to repeat it and say it over and over again. You have to teach them differently. This one comes from a background of knowledge, and this one is fresh. This student has a full cup. Yes, Sheikh, and I know, and I heard this, and my other teacher, and Fulan, and just keeps bringing all this information to the table. And this student says, teach me. I know nothing, you teach me and show me the way. There's a difference in how to deal with those students now. Then he says, next section, فصل ينبغي للمعلم أن يطرح على أصحابه ما يراه مستفاد المسائل ويختبر بذلك أفهامهم. He says that the teacher should test his students. He should test them. He should throw things at them and see how fast they react, like I just did. See how quick they are, Safwan, mentally. See how fast they are. See how brave they are. See how shy they are. You understand, Fatah? Teacher. Oh, an important way of teaching is to put someone on the spot. Not to embarrass them. No. We're not here to make fun of anyone. No. But I want you to leave the class with actual knowledge. And not, oh, I met Mufti Muhammad Ibn Muneer. No, I actually learned something. Tangible. Shay, mahsus. Alright? So he says that the teacher should throw things at the students. Throw things at them and see how they react. See what? See how they react. Give them masail. You understand this? Tayyib. And that's a very long discussion. Bab 1, next chapter. Adabul muta'allim is the etiquette of the learner. The etiquette of the learner. That's on page 44. The etiquette of the learner. The things that you should do and shouldn't do. The things that you must do and the things that you mustn't do. Then he says, فصل في آداب يشترك فيها العالم والمتعلم. Etiquette, which is between the learner and the teacher. Both of us have to do the same thing. And it's not just for the student, nor is it just for the sheikh. Both of us. Both of us have to do it. Next chapter. Adab al-fatwa wal-mufti wal-mustafti. He says etiquette of fatwa. In other words, there are certain fatwas which are not correct. The content isn't correct, or the content is correct, but the way that you came about and giving the fatwa and the conclusion that you reached was totally incorrect. Everyone understand the difference? Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentions in his book Miftahu Dar al-Sa'ada, he says Ajma' al-Uqala'u, he says all intellectuals, Muslim and Kafir, all intellectuals agree that if someone wants to go somewhere and he says, I'm not going to ask, I'm not going to use a compass, I'm not going to use the stars, I'm just going to walk and I'll find the place. Or some brothers, they may say to say, put your trust in Allah, right? Tawakkul, right? Put your trust in Allah. Just go and walk. He says that all the intellectuals agree, if that person found his destination and reached his intended location, he is still looked at as an idiot and a moron. Madhmuman bil ijma'. Everyone says that this man is lacking a brain. Even though he did what? He got there. Pay attention. He reached his destination, but it's still not praiseworthy. It's still not what? Praiseworthy. So in al-Islam, you could discover the ruling that it is haram to drink alcohol. Mathalan, as an example, a simple hypothetical example. But you don't know why, the proof. Or you aren't qualified to make that decision. Even though we know this is well known from Islam. I'm just making an example. You're not qualified to reach that decision. So you don't get a reward for your ijtihad. Rather, you get a sin for your ijtihad. Because it's not your place to make ijtihad. Even though you may have reached the correct conclusion. Everyone understand this? So there's an adab of what? Fatwa. That's a very long discussion. I heard from a sheikh from Azhar al-Sharif that it is halal. And a sheikh from Medina who says it's haram. And a third sheikh from Lebanon who says it's makruh. And a fourth sheikh from the Philippines who says it's mubah. And a fifth and a sixth and a seventh, etc. And the layman person, his head spins in confusion. Spins in confusion. And oftentimes, unfortunately, he may lose trust and respect for the ulama. And he may lose interest in knowledge. And he may lose interest in learning fiqh. And he says it's all, confusing. Look at him. And that's because every fatwa isn't proper. The person, the fatwa itself, etc. Moving forward. He says, wal mufti, and the etiquette of the mufti, of the one who's giving that fatwa. What knowledge do you have to give a fatwa? What is a fatwa, first and foremost? There's a great deal of confusion what a fatwa is. He can give a fatwa, but you can't. What's the difference? What does a fatwa mean? But we've already moved on. The mufti. Can the mufti be reckless in his fatwa? Anything's halal, everything's haram. Can he just swing a sledgehammer? Can he just open up the door and let everything inside? It's all halal. It's 2019. Islam is ease. Allah doesn't want a hardship on us. Kullu halal. Can the mufti be too harsh and too strict and make a hardship upon the people, in which everything's haram, nothing is permissible? All jobs in Malaysia are haram. All jobs in America are haram. You can't drive a taxi. You can't be a security guard. You can't work at a bank. You can't go to college. It's free mixing. You can't. Kullu shay. You understand this? Can the mufti be a fanatical muqallid? Someone who's a muqallid. And the only way is the way of Shaykh Fulan. The only way is Abu Hanifa. The only way is the way of Imam Malik. That's it. Is that person qualified to be a mufti? وهكذا. What is the ruling on speaking about something in which you're not too sure of? وهكذا. Etiquette of the what? Of the mufti. And it allows no doubt. When people who give fatwa, when they abide by these rulings, the bar will be raised for the respect given to fatwa. And it's one of the reasons why it's such a joke today. And anyone can get on television or YouTube or their page and say this is halal, haram, and they have no adab. And it causes the people to run away from the fatwa and the fuqaha. And I'm sure you all can mention examples of this, unfortunately, in which it allows the people to make fun of the people of knowledge and mock them, make fun of them. What did the man say on the television once? He said, women cannot drive. And the permissibility that women cannot drive is that, or the proof that women cannot drive, it's haram for a woman to drive, he said. And the proof that it's haram, he said, what, Abdul Qadir? He said that when a woman drives, it will cause her to be barren and sterile. It will destroy her ovaries and her eggs. If she drives a car, she won't have the ability to bear children. And the Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِنِّي مُكَافِرٌ بِكُمْ وَالْأُمَمَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Marry the woman who's affectionate, marry the woman who's loving, marry the woman who's fertile, etc. Because I will brag about who has the most followers on the Day of Judgment. Marry a woman that can bear children for you, right? And he says that driving is haram for women because when a woman drives, she'll lose the ability to have children. The talk show host that was interviewing this scholar, he started laughing at the man. And he started censuring him terribly, as if he wanted to abuse him verbally. And he says, how many women in the world today besides this country drive cars? And they have thousands of children. This woman is a soccer mom. She drives a van, And she has how many kids in the what? In the back seat of the van. This person, that person, all of them have children and they've been driving since 18 until 30 and 40. How can you be so stupid to say something like this? The scholar or the mufti who made this statement, was he a real scholar? Was he a mufti? Was he a Christian who was paid to dress up like an Islamic mufti? Allahu alam. Allahu alam. Was it someone who was against Islam in disguise? Allah knows best. But the point is, it was on the television show. It was on the television and it was broadcasted to the Muslims. And that's going to cause someone who's halfway religious, that's going to cause someone who really doesn't want to study and follow the rules, say, look, unzur, shuf, that. Look at this guy, he's a mufti, he's a faqih, and this is what he says. And it will cause the people to have, عدم الثقة بالعلم والعلماء. They'll lose the respect for the scholars. And this, without a doubt, it has happened in 2019, unfortunately. And they make fun of the religious people because of stupid things that certain people do. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. They make fun of someone with a beard. They make fun of someone wearing a hijab. They mock them. And if they don't make fun of them and mock them, then for sure they'll lose respect. Another manifestation of this is one day you're our sheikh. You come to visit us. And the next day, because you differed with him on an issue, we've declared you to be an innovator. You're mubtadi'. You're no longer good. Malish, khalas. But he was a beneficial sheikh, so what? I wrote down notes. Burn your notes. Get rid of everything that you learned from him. He's no good. Okay, tayyib, mumkin. And then he comes to the country and visits us. And he does classes and lectures and lessons and answers questions. And then he differed with the same sheikh. And now he's what? Mubtadi', dal mudil. And the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth, all visit the country, and every single scholar that came to Malaysia and invented this university is now an innovator. That's going to cause the general people and the students of knowledge to have what attitude? What they're going to say now in the future? They're going to say what? We don't want to learn from what? Any scholar. We don't have anything to do with them, because it's nothing but a roller coaster. It snaps our necks. One day we benefit, we learn, he changes our life. Next day, no good. It causes people to lose respect for the scholars. So it's an etiquette of fatwa, and it's an etiquette of da'wah, and it's very, very, very dangerous, guys. Moving forward. Wal-mustafti, and the adab of the one who's seeking the fatwa, the one who asks a question. Is it permissible for you not to use your common sense when asking a question? Is it permissible for you to say, this person is religious, he's a scholar, he's learned, I'm just going to ask him? Or is it obligatory for you to use a percentage of your own mind before you ask? Is it obligatory to be selective whom you ask? Or can you just ask anyone? Is it obligatory for you to want to follow the truth and not your desires? Is it permissible for you to choose between two different fatwas? Or you have to take the one which is ashad, the one which is worse? Is that fatwa shopping? Two scholars have said something on an issue. I read both fatwa, I've understood their words, and I feel that this second fatwa is better and it's closer to the deen, and it says that I can buy the car, or I can make the lease, or I can marry this woman. And the other shaykh, he says no, la yajuz. Is it permissible, is it okay for us to say that you have to follow the one that says la yajuz? Is that fatwa shopping? We need to know that. There's an etiquette of asking questions, and there's also an etiquette of asking fatwa, and there's an etiquette of taqleed, which most Muslims aren't practicing properly. They themselves say they follow Abu Hanifa, and they're not doing it the right way. If it's even permissible to blind follow Abu Hanifa or Malik or Shafi, but for argument's sake, they're not even what? Doing it the what? The proper way. Next chapter, he says, Faslun, page 57. ينبغي للإمام أن يتصفح أحوال المفتين. He speaks about an issue of Islamic government and Islamic politics. Islamic politics. And that is for the leader of the country to choose and to pick and to select the best mufti for the country and the best muftis. Everyone with knowledge or a doctor's degree should not be a mufti in Malaysia. Everyone who has this ijaza and busies himself with knowledge shouldn't be answering the questions of the people. But the leader has to pick and choose. Some are more suited than what? Than others. A simple example of this would be two muftis. One mufti comes from a wealthy background, and another mufti comes from a very poor background. If both of them are qualified and they have strong ilm, they can both be muftis. Both of them can be. However, who's going to be the grand mufti of Malaysia? The central mufti of Malaysia? If I was the leader and I had to pick, I would pick with the one that comes from noble background. The one who comes from a wealthy, rich family. That's going to be the central mufti. Why is that? Why would I say that? Why would I give precedence to someone who comes from money and wealth over someone who comes from poverty? Without a question. He's used to money. He's used to royalty. Money isn't as a fitna as it is for the mufti that comes from poverty. And it's easier, hypothetically speaking, for someone to slide him an envelope. Or for someone to say, take this wealth and take this land and take this property. We'll give you what you need. Or even worse, a qadi. A qadi. Someone who's used to wealth is more difficult for him to be bought out. But someone that's never seen money like that before, and power and authority, it's a big chance that he can be what? Bought out. And if the qadi or the mufti is bought out, then khalas. The haram is halal, the halal is haram. The bid'ah is sunnah, the sunnah is bid'ah. Based off of the highest what? Bidder. Everyone understand this? As an example. Let alone it's going to be something or one less thing for people to say tafaddal, about the person, such as the khatib. And the ulama of Islam, they've mentioned this about he who gives the khutbah. You should pick those who give the khutbah, and the person, hypothetically speaking, should be sharif or nasab. You should be highborn. And that's because that's one less excuse for the people not to listen. Why should we listen to this guy and he's barely, look at his family. Culture and politics is reality. He comes from a low family. No, he comes from a highborn family. So that's one less excuse for the people not to listen to him. Everyone understand this? Moving forward. Faslun shurutul mufti, the conditions of the mufti. Page 59. Faslun aqsamul muftin, the types of muftis. Faslun, page 64. Ahkamul muftin, wa fihi tis'u masail, rulings of muftis, which includes 10 branches. Page 68. Faslun 9. Not 8, 9. Jazakallah khairan. 9. Adab al-fatwa. وفيه 19 مسألة. Page 68 says etiquette of fatwa, and there are 19 branches of that. The last chapter, it says on page 78, في آداب المستفتي وصفته وأحكامه وفيه 10 مسائل, is the etiquette of the one who's asking the fatwa and his rulings, what's halal, what's haram. And that includes 10 branches, 10 issues. And that's the end of the book. So from reading the table of contents, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, hopefully you will see, inshaAllah, what the book is about. What do you guys think? Think it's a good book to study, inshaAllah? Bi'idhnillah, you all know his writing style. It's very sweet and easy. And it's very fluid. So with that being said, we've successfully finished the table of contents. Inshallah, we're going to take a break now, either a break to get up and stretch your legs or to look at the rain, or perhaps we can take a few questions if there are questions, inshallah ta'ala. And Salat al-Maghrib is when? 7:30, perhaps we'll start back up after Salat al-Maghrib, inshallah ta'ala. So if there are a few questions, maybe we'll take some. And if you guys want to take a break and stretch your legs or check your notes or drink some tea or coffee, it's up to you. The refreshments are on the way. Type. Are there any questions, brothers or sisters, pertaining to the class or pertaining to other than the class? Are there any questions, brothers or sisters? Fadl Khidr. Say that again. With regards to Fard Ain, Fard Kifaya. Okay. Examples of that? Yes, anything in the deen. Everything of aqeedah and iman, every Muslim doesn't have to learn about. Everything of fiqh, every Muslim doesn't have to learn about. But there are certain things in which every Muslim must learn about. Wallahu a'lam. Fadl akhi. Are students of secular knowledge considered talib al-ilm? No, they are not. In the Islamic sense. The ayat and the hadith about ilm, إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء, is not talking about scientists and astronomers and abadan. Is it a virtue in being a scientist who's a Muslim, who helps out Islam and gives da'wah? Of course there's a virtue. Of course there's a good deed in that. You spread Islam, you give da'wah, you spend your wealth, you take care of people. But that's not the maqsood of Allah and His Messenger. That is not the intention of Allah and His Messenger. And anyone who says that's what Allah and His Messenger intend by that, فَقَدْ غَلِطَ, that's wrong. لكن لا يلزم منه, it doesn't mean, as I said, that there's no virtue in that. And it doesn't mean that it's haram or disliked. But that's not what Allah is talking about when He says al-ulama. He's not talking about scientists and physicists. That is not what Allah is talking about, and it is haram to say that. And that's because science and these things like this is not ibadah in itself. And it does not lead to Allah by itself. And it is not virtual and holy and sacred by itself. Learning the Quran and the Sunnah and the Hadith and His knowledge and His sciences, that in itself is sacred. And that in itself is virtuous. And that leads to Allah and it comes from Allah. And that's not the case with medicine or culinary arts or this or that, which could be used for good or could be used for other than good. Wallahu a'lam. Fadal.
What is your advice on sharing quotes that you find online with the sources, but we have not seen physically in the book?
What is your advice on sharing posts that we've seen online? We haven't actually seen it in the book. If it's from a trustworthy source, a generally sound source, la bas. La bas. La bas. La bas. online, social media, la bas. You search a quote, you find something, Ibn Qayyim said this, and it's from a generally sound source, la bas. Share it with them.
On the point of sharing it, like when we see a source, good with the source, and we share it forward, is that okay? Because we did not verify exactly like this is correct.
La, you said I found this online, something that I came across. It's a screenshot, or the modern world, they have the quotes, the wise quotes of this one. La bas. La bas. Al-Muhim, hadith that you're not sure about how authentic it is, different story. Wallahu alam. Fadl ya akhi.
I want to share a hadith, and I know that it is authentic, so I don't remember the
لا بأس لا بأس لا بأس ما دمت واثقا من صحته لا بأس. تفضل.
In the first is it about the ilm that is necessary or ilm that is voluntary, that is not wajib?
Any knowledge is not, it has to be fard ayn, fard kifaya, or the nafil ilm. Knowledge which is supererogatory. Of course, if it's obligatory, then it's similar to the other things. Supererogatory knowledge. I have the ability to pray, and I have the ability to read and study, and I don't have to. It's always more virtuous. And that's because knowledge overlaps, and it pours over to other people. Wadah?
If something is wajib, and one wajib, is there a reason to prefer something over something because it's already wajib? There's no preference. I don't have to prefer ilm over salat because
It depends on the
I
salah.
have to do it.
It's like we said, if it's mandatory salah, that's not what's meant. But we're talking about voluntary prayer, night prayer, mathalan. And of course, the correct understanding of this is that you have to manage your time. There's time for qiyam al-layl and there's time for ilm. There's time for tarawih and there's time for studying. But as I said, there's only 1 hour, which suffices. Or my energy is limited. I become very tired if I do this, and I won't be able to do that. Everyone understand this? And we're not talking about things which are obligatory, salah, la, abadan. Of course you have to make salah. What's the purpose of seeking in if you're not going to pray? We're talking about voluntary. Like the Salaf would say, whether it was Ibn Abbas or Imam Shafi'i and others, when they would read at nighttime, and a student would get up to pray and to make qiyam. It's narrated that Ibn Abbas, he says, مَا الَّذِي قُمْتَ إِلَيْهِ بِأَفْضَلَ مِمَّا قُمْتَ عَنْهُ. He says, the thing that you stood up to do is no better than that which you stood up from. Meaning, stay sitting down and let's read and study, which is more virtuous and more helpful than you praying at night by yourself. But it doesn't mean that you neglect praying at night. It doesn't mean that you what? Neglect it. Clear? Wallahu a'lam. Tight. Inshallah, however they like to ask them, inshallah. You have them?
Yeah.
Tight.
Shaykh, is it necessary that a student of knowledge be fast in his learning? How much does speed matter?
Student of knowledge being fast and learning. How much does speed matter? Etc. Everyone doesn't have to be fast. Everyone isn't fast. Sometimes fast isn't best. Sometimes it's best to take it slow. Pace yourself. However, sometimes you need speed. And that's because it may be a lot of ground to cover in a short period of time. Some knowledge, like we just said, you just may want to skim through the book. You don't have a lot of time to read 500 pages. But I did what? Skim through the book. Or you may be about to do a khutbah and need to review something really quick. Or you're having an exam. You've studied already and you want to refresh yourself at the last moment. Or you're crashing. You didn't study all semester. You have a day to prepare for the test. You need the ability to what? What the sound effect, to run through it. Speed reading is a skill. And my personal advice is to learn how to speed read. No doubt about that. It can help you out. Also, when it comes to seeking knowledge in general, you have to be aggressive. Class to class, lecture to lecture. Get done, get finished. And that's because you never know what's going to happen. Many brothers in the Islamic University of Madinah, they would take their time. Or in Mecca, they'd take a semester off, they will fail a class, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to take less classes, etc. Next thing you know, he gets sick. Or his mother gets sick. Or his wife back home says, come back home where I want to be separated from you. Or the Jamia changes its policy, now you're stuck. You should have moved fast when you had the ability to do so. So sometimes move slow, and sometimes you must move fast. What's important is even if you don't like moving fast, have the ability to do it. Have the ability what? To do it, because you never know when you need it. Wallahu a'lam.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Allah bless you. I would like to know how I can inform a teacher of mine that they are teaching me how to in such a way that is damaging my confidence and motivation.
Question says, I would like to inform my teacher that my teacher is treating me harshly in a way which is damaging me and is harmful and is hurtful, etc. First and foremost, make dua that Allah soften the heart of your teacher. Make dua for your teacher. Secondly is, all harshness isn't bad. Sometimes harshness is a good thing. Just like sometimes softness is a very bad thing. You can be too kind and too easy, in which people don't respect it or they don't take it for granted, okay? Or they take it for granted. But if it's hurtful and if it's haram, how the person is treating you, then the best thing I would say is to get another teacher to speak to that teacher. And you don't say it to your teacher. You don't say it to your teacher. And that's because sometimes if you say something to someone directly, it may not be the best etiquette or the best adab. And it goes from student to teacher, teacher to student. Let's make an example of this. So just what happened. I said 8, and the word is 9. You said 9, you corrected me. You're right, I'm clearly wrong. But that wasn't the best thing to do. The best thing to do was say, Shaykh, is it 9? Is my print different? My print says tisa, and you read 8. But I can't necessarily say that to you. Because if I say that to you, then the people want to think that he's being egotistic and he's taking it as a personal problem. Even though that's what's correct. But someone else will have to tell you that. And the same applies to the student talking to the teacher. You may not have the ability to tell the teacher, Shaykh, you're too harsh, because that may be improper of proper adab, even though he needs to be advised or she needs to be advised. So therefore, go to another teacher or someone that isn't his student and say, could you please talk to Shaykh Fulan for me? That's the best thing to do. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. That's the best thing. However, the last thing that I'll say is, sometimes the teacher may be treating you a certain way for wisdom. The teacher may be trying to toughen you up. The teacher may be preparing you for the harsh realities of the real world, in which everyone is not going to agree with you. Everyone is not going to listen to you. Everyone is not going to nod their head when you're speaking. And I need to make sure that you're a good student. Or the teacher may say, if you're going to get an ijazah from me and leave my class and leave my chair, my halaqah, you can't be sloppy. And there has to be a standard of quality if you're going to bear my name. So sometimes teachers have different ways which they don't always have to explain to you. And me, myself, I had many teachers like this. Before I went to Medina and after I left Medina. My own father, many things I didn't understand, how he would say it and why he would say it. Years later in my life, I got the point now. That's why he never gave this to me. And that's why he made me look for this. And that's why he left that stuff there, but he never told me to look at it. I see why now. And a perfect example of this is, alhamdulillah, when I was younger in my house, I always had tons of books in my house, always. From my mother and my father. But my father's library was far bigger than my mother's library. Books about Islam and other than Islam. Tons of books. And I never ever remember my father encouraging me to read any of those books. I never remember. Maybe he did, but I can't remember him saying, read the books. But the books were there. Now, when I was young, my mother and my father, they got separated. They got divorced. My father left. And the possessions that he took, he never ever took the library. And it was a wealthy library. It was expensive books from all around the world. And he left the books in the house. Now, me being 34 years old, I feel that he did that on purpose. And he did it intentionally. But back then, he's saying, why doesn't he not explain it to me and tell me to read the books and so on? But he did it intentionally. And look at now. Look now. I benefited and I learned from those books. Everyone understand this? And I had teachers when I first went to learn Arabic. The brother wouldn't teach me Arabic. He kept stringing me along. I was upset in my city in America. I was 16 years old. He refused to teach me. He promised me but never did it. And I was mad. And I learned myself. And I took my frustration and my anger, and that was a burning fire that pushed me to learn it myself. Look now. When I see this older brother in the city of Philadelphia, he says, Sheikh, Ustad. And he's 3-4 times older than me. And I used to look up to him, but now he calls me Sheikh. And now when I think about it, maybe he was doing that intentionally, on purpose. Maybe he saw the talent that I had in the fire, let him learn it by himself. Everyone understand this? So sometimes you have to trust your teacher. And that's why the teacher is a what? A teacher. Because they've tried it more times. They've failed it more times than you've tried. Allahu Akbar. The teacher has failed more times than you've what? Tried it. He's experienced. So sometimes put your trust in the teacher. But if it's something which is haram, hurting the Muslims' feelings, that's what? It's a total different story. Ad-din al-nasiha. Wallahu alam.
Can a woman be a mufti if she is qualified?
Without a question. Aisha radiallahu anha was one of the greatest muftis of Islam. The tabi'een, the sahaba will go to her, and she had many strong students, and they would sit and they would ask her questions. They would call her mother, and she would say, I'm your mother, as if you're my sons. And they would ask her embarrassing questions, and she would explain to them issues which people felt were embarrassing. She taught them. No question about that. A woman can have knowledge of the deen and answer questions and spread knowledge just like a man can. Wallahu a'lam.
What can be said about Islamization of knowledge, for example, psychology, history, political science from an Islamic perspective, where knowledge of these fields are integrated with the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah?
Tayyib. With regards to Islamifying these sciences, psychology and history and human behavior, etc. Are they integrated? Are they separate? So on and so on and so forth. Let's make an example of this. Mental disorders, mental illness. If a person comes into the masjid and they start screaming out loud and crying out loud and running back and forth or butting their head into the wall, what do we say about them? Do we say he's majnoon? He has a jinn in him? Or do we say he's majnoon, meaning suffering from schizophrenia? Or is bipolar? Or do we say there is a connection between the two? If a person is mentally ill, mentally sick, that person is more likely to be the victim of sihr and of jinn. And the jinn and the people of sihr, they'll prey on that person because it's easy prey, because his mind is automatically messed up and feeble. So half of the problem is jinn or sihr. And another half of the problem is a technical, terminal, or a clinical mental illness. There's no doubt about that. And it doesn't mean that we have to reject demon possession or jinn possession, as the people other than the Muslims have done. Or even some people who say that they're Muslims, they have done this, and they've rejected it. Doesn't mean that. But it doesn't mean that anyone who screams or acts funny or acts crazy or has problems in his marriage or is sick has a jinn or sihr or la yalzam. Rather, it may be this and it may be that, or maybe a mixture of what? Of both. So what I would do, and what I would say, wallahu alam, is that if you want to be someone who specializes in the field of secular knowledge, you should learn both schools. Learn what the non-Muslims say about it, thoroughly. And it doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything they say, but learn it well. And then you learn what the Muslims say about this issue. And then bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, you know what to mix and match, what to merge, and what remains here, and what remain what? There, and not to mix the two. And if there's a question or problem that comes up, go back to a specific learning person with a list of questions, in which you call a scholar, or sheikh, or whoever has the ilm, and you say, yeah, sheikh, I want to make a meeting with you. And in this meeting, I have 25 questions just about psychology. And I want to have a special sitting with you, and I want you to answer my 25 questions on psychology. Is it permissible for a person to disclose all of their problems and sins? Is it permissible for me to be alone with a woman in my office? She can't talk if there's a third party, she won't feel comfortable. Is it? In which you make halal, and you make, according to the sunnah, these issues. But it doesn't mean that every single thing that's not in the Quran and Sunnah is false. That's not true. How many things did the Muslims get from the non-Muslims? Everyone understand this? The Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu, what did he say? When he was asked about having intercourse with a breastfeeding woman. He was asked about having intercourse with a breastfeeding woman. And he said that I almost prohibited it. I almost prohibited it until I looked into the Romans and the Persians. And I saw that it does no harm to them. It does no harm to them. Umar ibn al-Khattab, what did he get from the non-Muslims? With regards to the military, with regards to diwan and the calendar and things like this. Everything that comes from non-Muslims isn't a bad thing. And just because it's not mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah doesn't mean it's negative. Rather, everything which is good and positive and is wholesome is in the Quran and Sunnah. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. A mechanic, a scientist, a psychologist, an astronomer, etc. This carpenter is Ahl al-Dhikr. And he says the wall has to be constructed like that. This is an engineer. And he says you can't make the bridge like that. He's a kafir, he's not a Muslim. He's in the Muslim lands. He says you cannot build the bridge like that, it's going to fall down. And the Muslim engineer says no, no, no. And he's more skilled than the Muslim engineer. I'm going to listen to the mushrik engineer who has more skill of the ilm. And that's because in this instance he's what? Ahlul Dhikr. So everything doesn't always have to be Islamic to be correct. And we deserve the truth of science and technology and advancements more than they do. But the Muslims were fighting. The Muslims were worshiping graves and doing bid'ah. The Muslims were chasing desires and lusts. The Muslims were doing this and doing that. And the non-Muslims were building and thinking and planning and scheming and plotting. And they were spending tons of gold and silver on developing this weapon and developing this type of boat and developing this type of game and developing and developing and developing. 10, 20, 30, 40 years later, look what has happened. They stole it from the Muslims in their crusades, but now it is European. And one of the biggest proofs for this is the game of chess. The first thing that you think about chess, and chess masters and grandmasters are from what country? The queen, the king, the bishop, the knight, that's all European. But chess wasn't started in Europe. It didn't come from Europe. It had nothing to do with Europe for many, many, many years. But they have dominated it. They've dominated it. Because they were focusing when the other people were what? Sleeping and fighting or etc. And say this about anything else in the dunya, unfortunately. Wallahu alam.
Is incorrect information from Shia websites considered knowledge? Does knowledge have to be authentic and have benefits?
Does or is incorrect information from a Shiite website, is it considered to be knowledge? Does it have to be authentic, etc.? Knowledge is one thing and information is another thing. Information doesn't have to be authentic. And sometimes if you're trying to learn something, you need to have bad information. You have to have bad information if you're trying to be an expert in a thing. You must know what's out there, and you must know their doubts and what they're going to say and what they're going to use. That's information, and that's not ilm. And ilm isn't wisdom, hikmah. Wahakadha, it's different levels. But that's not for every single person. That's only for a select few. They ask the question, can a Muslim read the Bible? The Muslim who is a scholar of comparative religion, he can read the Bible. He may have to what? Read the Bible. Maybe mandatory for him to do that. But not every single Muslim, even if he's a scholar. He's a scholar of fiqh. He's not a scholar of comparative religion. There's no need for him to read the Bible. But someone who is a person who debates with Christians, he may have to read the Bible. And everything in the Bible is not authentic. And it isn't knowledge. Information is a thing and knowledge is what? Another thing. Wallahu alam. Khalas? Fadal.
There is a hadith regarding the Quran compilation in Surah Al-Abbad that Usama bin Zaid actually when he was collecting he was writing the Zaid bin Asad actually when the hadith he was writing. So there is the hadith the two verses of Surah Al-Ahzab, the last two verses. It was found from Abu Uzam. So regarding this hadith actually, Shahzad Salim was claiming that this hadith actually, this hadith narration has some problem. because the methodology of the Sahaba that for every single verse there should be two witnesses with him or with himself. So, but this hadith actually is saying that there is only one witness, only Abu Huzam. There is no other witness. So it directly goes against the methodology of the hadith Quran compilation. So according to this view, actually the hadith is actually in the Rabi there is a problem. So what's your view actually about this issue? Because as we know that all the hadiths of Sahih al-Bukhari is the Sahih, but in here what he is claiming. So
clear. Jazakallah khairan. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll take this as our first question in our next session, whereas Maghrib is going to be soon, and we have to make the break. We'll answer it, inshallah ta'ala, as soon as we start the next session, because it may become a bit lengthy, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan.